So I forgot to add the QR codes for the official playlist to the thank you cards that I had made up, because I'm writing handwritten notes on all of them. And so my solution is to print out the QR code and tape them to the thank you cards. So we're gonna see how this goes. The other thing is that my cubital tunnel is really, really bad. Surprisingly, it's not as bad when I am typing on a computer, but when I'm writing, my hands burn, they hurt. It's very, very painful. So we're just doing what we can do here. So I am using packing tape, one, because I have an abundance of it right now since I just moved, but also I'm trying to make it look like maybe I just like laminated these on the cards. I don't know, we're just going for what we got here. So these are the character art cards that I had made. Did them myself, and I'm very proud of them. Very, very proud. To be clear, I did not make the art. I'll actually tag the artist in the description below, and in the video I'll put their name. But yeah, I did not make this illustration. I made the physical card. Also, I'm throwing some bookish stickers in each packet. So I got 13 of my books packaged up, labeled, ready to go to the post office. Now to just get the other 12 that I need. Hello YouTube, thank you so much for coming onto my channel. I am Angel M. Shaw and I write dark and angsty romance, and I'm so glad that you're here. I wanted to record this video so that I can talk about some of the mistakes that I made in my publishing journey thus far in getting to the point where I could publish this book, as well as the 2 additional books that are going to be coming out in just a few months. So this book, Shadowplay, comes out on July 23rd, and that's only about 2 weeks from now at the time of this recording, which is, yeah. So let's jump right into it. One of the things that I did not do quite right was not knowing how to self-edit my manuscripts. I did hire an editor way before I finished draft 1 of my book, but I was about 80% of the way done. I got on their calendar, and that was a good decision. Getting an editor was a good decision, and I know that that is cost prohibitive for a lot of people, but I knew that I needed editorial help, and I wanted editorial help. Plus, I am kind of alone out in these worlds. I'm still building up my network of other people who could be critique partners or beta readers. So I hired an editor. But the thing that I found with Shadowplay was that it went through so many revisions because I didn't know how to self-edit before I can get that content over to my editor. So this book, to get it how you see now, it went through about 22 revisions. 22 times I had to touch this book, go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and figure out the areas that didn't work, did work, where the flow of the voice was choppy or where the pacing was off. I had to do that 22 times. And when I got to Oathbreaker, which is book 2, and then Reverie, which is book 3, that whole process went so much faster and was much smoother, not just with me and my relationship with the manuscript, but also with me and my relationship with my editor and how we work together, because I learned what my big pitfalls are when it comes to my writing and to my editing. So for instance, one of the things that I do a lot, and it's just like second nature, is I will put in to be verbs, or I'll put things like she was walking, or she is staring out the window. She stares out the window at the, whatever. So really figuring out how to identify as I'm writing, as I'm drafting, the passive and active voice, so that I can make sure that there's less for me to edit further along. The other thing is coming up with my list of words that I use either way too often, or words that I just won't use in the right context. For instance, he grounds out versus he grinds out, which is correct, grinds. So figuring out the things that are my hot points, so that even if I don't write those things out of my process, I know what they are. I can go do a Control F and search through the document for them, and I can then more easily take those things out before I put it on my editor's desk. The second mistake that I made was not marketing faster and earlier and going all in on it. So my goal with my books is to be a full-time, self-sustaining romance author by 2026. A conventional wisdom is you want to get to 10 books published, and that's when you can really start seeing roots grow into your career. That's not to say that people can publish one book and they just take off and it's amazing. But also I know that I'm probably going to follow the path of the masses when it comes to people who do this as a job. And that means it's going to take time, it's going to take books, it's going to take a backlog of books, and it's going to take me actually marketing. But the thing that I found was that because I did not have a plan, because I did not have clarity on my audience and also on who my comparable authors are, but more on that later. Because I didn't have those things thought of, I really struggled with figuring out how to market, and therefore I just didn't do it. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do if you are in the process of starting your author journey is to figure out who you're writing for, who are the people that like your types of books, and creating content for them. People like following along on your journey. People like hearing bits and pieces of the passages that you wrote that you love. They love that stuff. So put it out there. The other thing that I did that was a very, very big mistake was not setting a budget. So I had a rough idea of what it would take for me to get the book out into the world in the way that I wanted it to, but I did not have any sense of how much money, just how much money it was going to take me to be able to achieve that. So I've been so focused on digital marketing efforts that, like TikTok, Facebook, investing in the organic ways that we can reach readers. I've been so invested in trying to build up that arm that I, one, didn't pay attention to the fact that I can just give my book to people who will then amplify the message of it, but also that there are printing costs. Also that there are differences between printers, and that where you print and the order in which you put your books up, I'm looking at you, Amazon, does make a difference. And so I didn't put in those hard costs like mailers and PR boxes and just getting 45 copies of my books so that I can give them away to influencers who have a substantial following and who I think will love my book. So do your research when it comes to figuring out how much you can reasonably set aside, if anything, to market your book and get it out into the world. Speaking of getting prints done, one of the big mistakes that I made was not shopping around for my printers. So I just went through the path of least resistance, which for me was printing my books through Ingram and Amazon. Ingram Spark is one of the largest, if not the largest, I don't know, book distributions, aggregators in the world. There are many of them, but Ingram is like the parent, right? So even if you go through some of those other companies that may be a little bit easier to work with, put it like that, they're still going to go through Ingram. And so I did not think through my level of preparedness that was necessary for me to be able to work with Ingram and not get my shirt taken. So for instance, it costs, after 60 days of your book being up on Ingram, you have to pay for every revision that you make. Well, guess what? This thing went through 22 revisions, and about last third of those revisions or when this book was in print. So anytime I needed to make a change because I missed a word or I missed a comma or there was a tense shift that somehow made it through all these rounds of revisions and proofreading by a third party, I had to pay money to update my file. So one of the things that I would do is, one, research your printers. Two, be aware of their policies and how that may impact you, especially if you know that you have certain requirements. Maybe you have a budget per book that you need to stay under, or you're going to be potentially like me and you might have things that slip through the cracks. You want to pay attention to those things. And this is not to say that I dislike Ingram. This is just more so to say, to see what all is out there and then make the best decision for you, your readers, and your bottom line. So pitfall number 5 was not being clear about my comp authors. So when I started writing this book, I thought it was firmly in the subgenre of romantic suspense. I called it dark romantic suspense because I know that there were dark themes, but I didn't want to call it full out dark romance because to me, that meant something different. To me, dark romance meant authors like Lauren Beale or Miranda Grant, which I love those authors and I do read their books. I love those authors, but that was my frame of reference for what dark is. For me, the definition of dark meant that dark romance meant that there was darkness between the main characters. And in my books, that is not the case. There is no bullying in my books of the male main character to the female main character. In fact, I think, and I believe, and other reviewers have said, that Shadowplay is actually a beautiful love story. The thing that makes it dark are the circumstances surrounding my characters. And so I didn't quite fit into the right shoe when it came to figuring out where my foothold was in the market. That said, I picked out comparable authors to analyze how they go to market, who their readers are, how they're creating content. And I created a whole type of persona and approach that was completely incongruent to who my readers actually are. So while they are not necessarily 24/7 exclusively Miranda Grant or Lauren Beale readers, they are readers of people like Parker S. Huntington, who's the author of Darling Venom. They are fans of authors like J.T. Geisinger, which is the author of Pen Pal, which that book had me throwing it at a wall. So there is a case study for my type of book. Books that have complex characters, that have complex scenarios, that have an edge of suspense, but it is equally weighted with the romance story or the B plot as it is with any other element within the story. There is a rubric. There are examples of authors who are tackling really, really dark themes, and yet they have beautiful stories for their characters. And that's really where my foothold is. And once I made that discovery, and once I really leaned into, I am a writer of dark and angsty romance, it all made sense. And my followers understood what it is that I was doing, and I was able to grow my fan base that way. That's all I got for you. Again, like I said in my last video, I am so looking to connect with other dark romance authors, especially other BIPOC authors. I have a thread up right now where I have a call for people who are authors of dark romance, especially BIPOC authors of dark romance. And if that sounds like you, if you're watching this and you are a dark romance author, follow me on Threads, follow me on Instagram. My links are in the caption below. That's it. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time.